Hey friends, this is Chrono or Cameron. I wanted to throw together a quick tutorial on how to get Untitled Project 10 running on your Steam Deck. For those who are fans of FF10, who might not know about really what that mod is about, it's the most common, most helpful mod out there for FF10. Some very quick features, and I say I'll link the post so you can see all of them because there is a ton. Very quick features that might be notable or helpful for you. The big one is probably the Japanese voices. I know that's a huge ask or want for people playing this game. Me, myself, not a huge fan, but if that is something you're looking for, that is included in this mod. Some other two things that I see that where most people are really excited about that have this mod really is capable of is one, you can import your own custom textures, anything from high res to just something completely different. This mod is the engine to do that. And then the second, or I guess the third, the third thing really that this is helpful for that I see a lot of people request, and this one I agree on, is the shared AP. So just your whole party gets that AP or the after the battle, whether so you don't have to switch out every single member. But right now, and I'm hoping to change that with this video, getting this installed and running on SteamOS is not easy. A lot of that information is scattered. A lot of it is scarce. But I'm hoping to kind of, make that easier here today. So I'm just going to jump into it right now. I'll probably put a timestamp just so everybody who knows what the mod is won't have to listen to me drabble. But let me get into it. One thing I would do right off the bat, if you have not done already, I'm assuming everyone's probably done it if they're like at this video, is I would run FF10 at least once. Steam does this thing, and I'm sure you guys are aware probably by now, where the first time you run a game, it will install necessary prerequisites. I have had this downloaded for about a year now, so I don't remember if it does it or not. But just to be safe, I would run it once. I'm just going to do it now just so we're all aligned. I'm just going to follow along and show you everything step by step here. So run it once. I say this will always take a second for that launcher to kind of pop up. Run FF10 once. And yeah, and I say, here's the mod running in full time, by the way, right here, just so you know I'm not making it up, obviously, or else I wouldn't be recording this video. But yeah, run the game once, make sure it has those prerequisites. If there are any Steam prerequisites it needs, just so we know it's fully, on and working. But let me actually, besides that, get into how you really install it. It's pretty simple. Just, again, the information we needed was a little bit scarce and everywhere. While we're in the Steam game mode, and we won't be here really until the mod's ready, there is one caveat to this. I will get into what that is in a second, and that's where I think a lot of this frustration came in and what caused a lot of people to really give up getting this installed. That yellow overlay causes some nasty crashes, and it causes frequent crashes. And that's probably why people were having trouble getting the game to boot. Took me a little while to figure out. What I would come in and do is I would set up a control. I'm just using R4, this back pedal button. I would just come in here and set it up or any key for Control-Shift-O. Really all this is the default binding for that yellow overlay. I'll get into this once we've got it up and running on your Steam Deck. But for now, if you're in here, set up this binding. Again, it can be anywhere, any button that you want. It's just Control key, Shift key, and the O key. But I say before we move further, I highly recommend a mouse and keyboard. It's just going to make things way easier on you. I actually don't have a keyboard with how I need to record this for you guys, so bear with me. You'll probably see the on keyboard a little bit here, but I do have a mouse that you probably gathered. So let me close out of this real quick, and then we're going to just jump into desktop mode. So exit the game here. But yeah, to jump into desktop mode, if you've never done that before, you can hit the Steam button over here on the left of the side, and then just hit power, and then just jump into desktop. So give this a few seconds, and then you see me on the other side of my phone here. Hello, how are we? But yeah, let's jump into what we need to kind of get this up and running. The first thing is the mod itself. It's just the best place to really start. So I would just jump into a browser, any internet browser. I'm using Firefox, and we will say hello to Reddit as that's my homepage. And you will see, and I say I have this in my history as I've searched for it quite a bit, just Untitled Project X. You can just search this. There are 2 links that probably catch your eye. This one, the most recent version, I wish we can use this one. It just makes things a little bit more streamlined. Unfortunately, I could not figure out how to get the most recent version working. So we will be using a compatibility frozen build or an alternate build, which is available here in the Steam community post. So again, this is the one you want. If you see this special K, this is not the one you want. This is incorrect. So jump into, again, this post here. And once this loads, I'm already here. This is the last place I was, so it remembers. It's a little bit ways down, but also I'll probably put this in the description, just so if you're curious to see if this is worth your time and effort, which I would say it is. It's pretty easy again. This is everything that mod can do. You can even have some performance changes as well as like its own speed up function. It does a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, we can't do the smart way. If we could, this probably wouldn't be a video. So we're going to have to do what this game calls the hard way. So scroll down to download and install the hard way. And you're going to want the alternate version. And I think this is where Roadblock 1 happened, where a lot of people were confused. When you hit this, you're thrown into a GitHub with a bunch of seemingly random downloads. Again, confusing. You're just going to want this, the UNX 7-zip. This is the only file that's required. We don't need any of these test builds. We don't need this DLL or this PDB. You just need the 7-zip. When you download this, and I already have it downloaded, so that'll probably be my second copy. Yep. Yeah, we just need this file again. The next thing we need is we need to know where our game is installed. Pretty important. It's actually pretty easy. If you boot up Steam on your desktop mode, which I think this will always boot by default because it relies on that on-screen keyboard and some of the controller functions here, you're just going to find your game, which is should be pretty close up. It's F, and then just right-click the game, and then just hit Manage, and then Browse Local Files. And what that'll do is it'll just take you just straight to your game install. Mine will look different from yours, and that's because I have the mod installed, and presumably at this point you do not. But basically, I would do from here, new tab, and I say you can see I've already done it. But basically from here, find your downloads folder. It should be here by default. Just make sure you don't lose, obviously, your game install folder, and just navigate over to downloads. I'm going to delete my extra copy here. I'm actually going to delete this as well, just so we can all be in the same place. Obviously, I have some other random downloads here, but not important. We are going to want to extract this archive. Again, pretty simple. Just go ahead and right-click it and then hit extract, and then do, just for simplicity's sake, extract archive here, auto-detect the subfolder, which just spits out this UNX subfolder here. You're just going to want to click into the folder, and then again, this is where I think a lot of people were getting confused. There was some confusion around this myself. Again, it's nothing insane, nothing difficult. These 2 files need to be renamed. We don't want that default underscore in front of them, so you can come in here to rename. And again, if I don't have a keyboard, if you did, it would be easy. You can just literally hit backspace. Keep that first part of the name, the DX, in this case, the DXGI, and then just delete this, backspace. So it looks like this, and then same thing with this one. Come in here, hit rename, and then just delete that as well. Now we've got everything set up for this to move over. So you're just going to basically want to select all of these, right click. You can do copy or cut. I did copy until I got this up and running. Probably recommend the same, just so you know you have a clean install to reference if you need to. But obviously once you got it running, feel free to come in here, delete. You don't need 2 of that. Then just paste these files in this root folder. You don't need to go into any of these specific folders. Just right here, right on this file that the Steam takes you, just dump it in here. And then you're done. Again, a lot of these files you probably don't have yet are generated on first boot. So keep that in mind, that there probably are some files, even after the paste that I have, you don't. That is standard. But again, once you boot here, you'll be in here. You'll be good. That's pretty much done with the file structure. We've got the files we need, so feel free to exit out of this. Let's get out of Steam. And then here comes the part where there was so much vagueness around, I had to kind of figure this one out myself. So again, hopefully this will save you some time. We're going to need to download a program called Protontricks. So you can just jump into the Discover app here. I think it's default in favorites. If not, just search for Discover and it'll pop up. But basically, it'll bring you into like essentially, an app store for your OS. And just search, you don't even need to search Protontricks, just search Proton and it'll be the second thing that pops up. So Proton, and I'll hit enter, boom. Not this, it's this one, Protontricks. When you click it, I have it already installed, so it's got remove launch. If you don't already have it installed, it will say download here. Let it download, let it install, and then just go ahead and launch it. This one's pretty straightforward, but again, if you didn't know what you were doing, it's not straightforward. Just click FF10. It should always be named FF10. The number after, I think, varies depending on when it was downloaded and a bunch of other factors. It's not important. It's just FF10. Go ahead and click OK. The next screen will pop up here. It always takes a second. Maybe Protontricks crash. Oh, there we go. Don't click anything here. We want select the default wine prefix. That's the one we want. So then click OK. And then from here, we want the very first one. We want to install a Windows DLL or component. So click that and then click OK. And then load and up. There is a huge list of stuff here. We need the 2015 C++ files to get Untitled Project X to run. One thing that was frustrating when I was first trying to figure this out is one of the download upgrades or download links, and I think actually it is this one, is straight up broken. So that one won't work if I remember correctly. Yes, I do remember correctly. Don't download this. It will not work. What we want is not this one, actually. We want this one, the 2015 through 2019 libraries. At least as far as a few days ago, this was the download that worked. I'm not going to click OK because I already have them downloaded. But when you click OK, all that's going to happen is an installer is going to pop up, and it's just going to walk you through installing it like any other program. Excuse me. I would just download everything. If it gives you the option to customize the download, I don't even think it does. Don't do it. Just download all of those files. Make sure they're on there. And then once that download is done, you're good to go. Believe it or not, this is just yelling at me because I hit X. I'm just going to close all the way out of this. Yeah, again, once that download is done, you're done. So again, from here, pretty simple. Just hit, I would just recommend restarting. Once you're sure that download is done, hit restart. You just hit restart here to go immediately. And this will put us back into game mode. But it's also always in general good to restart the system when you install or download something new. And since we have quite a bit of files downloaded and installed, yeah, it's good to kind of let the system refresh and register those files and know what we're doing. So let's give this a few seconds to boot up, and then we will jump into FF10. And again, this is kind of where I'll talk through some of the things I experienced really getting this set up and running. I think a lot of it has to do with it creating those default files that it was doing. So give this a second and I'll talk to it a little bit more here. It's just taking its time to boot. But I've got like dual boot and a bunch of other stuff going. So anyway, once this kind of finally boots here, jump into FF10 and test it out. Hit play. And again, let me get into some of the caveats and some of the issues I was running into once this installs. So there's a few things. Again, it's pretty important. There is a rare chance I still experience it now. When you boot FF10, the game will instantly crash. It's pretty rare. I would say about 1 in 10 boots it happens, but it does happen. If it does, don't freak out. Just reboot it. I say it didn't happen there. I was a little unlucky. Next is this overlay. I'm going to show you what happens if you don't take away that overlay. It will always get to here, and then we get a nice crash. It happens every time with that overlay up. This is why I said go ahead and make that binding so you can dump that overlay immediately. Something about that overlay being displayed, SteamOS does not like it. So I think that was causing a lot of frustration too. People like got to this step, they thought they had it good, which they did unknowingly, and thinking, oh, there's something I did wrong or something I couldn't get to work. So again, if you just hit that binding, which I'm going to do right now, it'll completely get rid of that overlay, and then sure enough, that overlay is completely gone by this screen, and it will boot every single time past that point, and the game will run. Again, I will mention this because someone else will probably have this issue. The first few boots, for whatever reason, before I got this completely up and running, I think it was creating those files in the background that you probably saw in my file architecture, caused a lot of crashes. It was like pretty frustrating. But once I got all the files created, like it was creating them slowly, like every boot, I've had no issues since then. So give it a few boots before you kind of like throw your hands in the air and give up. I think from there, you really should be good to go. Some things I will mention, again, once you've got it booted a few times and completely booted, let me exit out of this one more time and jump to desktop mode. Since we're on a compatibility version, we actually can't control anything and everything from in-game, which is a bit of a shame, but better than nothing. But to kind of walk through some things you can edit. Again, let me pull up that FF10 folder structure, and that's where a bunch of these come into play. The language one is a big one. With the first time you install this, it will literally default to JP, I think, for everything. I personally prefer the English voices. My preference. Maybe you think I'm crazy. Fine. I switch these all back to US just to have. That's really all you have to do is literally just delete the JP and type US. Again, that will just use the default languages that are installed with the game. Pretty simple. Let me get completely out of here, and then I'll show you some other settings that I mess with. Gamepad. The Steam breaks this down a lot. One thing you'll notice too is it defaults to kind of that Xbox grayscale gamepad buttons. Not a huge deal in normal gameplay, but Orin's overdrives is like specifically are kind of hard to keep up with if you're not using the SteamDeck controller, which again, you probably are, but if you're like playing this on a big screen hooked up to a PlayStation controller, it's a little bit confusing. That Steam post will go over kind of what you can change this to and what you can reconfigure it to for your liking. I don't know how to get this to default, admittedly, but the Xbox One button scheme is fine. It's just colored, so I'm okay with that. If you do figure out how to get back to grayscale, I would love to know. I think I'd prefer that. But again, just go ahead and switch that to Xbox One. The post goes over like what all of this stuff means and like some other, like I guess there's some hotkeys in here that you can use. Obviously they're the PlayStation buttons, but the positions are the same across. I personally have a hotbar on my touchpad, but again, you can remap all of that here. One thing, and I say hopefully I'll remember where it is, that somebody mentioned is one of these, I can't remember, I think it's the booster settings. It is, oh no, this isn't the boost one I was thinking of, but it's worth mentioning. All of these are false by default. I turned these to true. That's that party AP and the permanent sensor. If you want those on, playable Seymour here's too if you'd like that. And then there's some skip dialogue and max speed options that you can tinker with if you wanted to mess with some of the speed up. I think this is actually probably better at 2, but something I might mess with later. Not what I was thinking of though. There is another one in here. I think it actually might be this, the calibrate. No, it's not the EXE. It is an INI. It must be this one. There is, I think, if I remember it correctly, there is a bunch of graphic options in here, and I think this one is the culprit. Actually, I know that one is the culprit. This one, default is true. I don't have any stutters on the vanilla experience in the Steam Deck. Maybe you do, then maybe you should leave this on true. One thing I did notice this does is it hikes the fan if it's on true. So if you notice, like once you're booting and you're playing, you're like, why is my fan running like insane? It wasn't doing this before. This is what causes it. I think it does something to make the system run a little bit harder, which, you know, might fix some stutters where like some weird GPU, CPU settings were causing it to flicker. Again, I don't have this issue, but, you know, the option is there if you don't want that heavy fan, or maybe you do. But turn this to false if your fan's way too loud. Other than that, should be good to go. Again, I would highly recommend just giving the actual, if you haven't already, this Steam community post a quick run through. It'll basically tell you what all of these settings do that you can toggle with. There's even some like button combinations here towards the bottom. Here are all the gamepad configurations, by the way. It doesn't mention how to do default, but maybe it's in here. Maybe I need to go in there. Anyway, regardless, it'll show you all those custom button mappings. These are the default ones. You don't need Project X for these. These are all in here. But like you can even, you know, have a full screen toggle, add a key if you'd like. There's even a kickstart issue. I've never run into this with the Steam Deck, but if you get stuck on a loading screen, apparently this input will just make it run. But yeah, there's the speed boost. There's a ton of other stuff. You can toggle VSync off without having to go into that extra menu. Again, cool stuff. I haven't messed around with quick save, quick load, but yeah, that is everything. I'd say that concludes kind of what I set out to kind of record for everybody and do. So hopefully that makes you, if you had as much success and as luck as I did, and I didn't skip anything, which again, I did this a day ago. So if I left something out, I'd be amazed. That is pretty much everything I did. Again, give the game a few boots. I would, again, while you've got your mouse, I would just boot it from here a few times, get those files created. And once you've got those files created, you mess with some of the settings. Maybe you turned off that flicker fix or whatever. Should be buttery smooth and running from there. Some other people have mentioned crashes in game. I've not experienced any crashes in game. I've experienced one long load screen. Didn't hit kickstart. It was just a longer load screen than normal, but no crashes, nothing like that. So yeah, let me know in the comments section if potentially something isn't working or isn't running. I can maybe jump in there and try to help. I am not an expert at this stuff by any means. I am just very, very, what's the word? I just want to figure things out and get them to work. I'm frustrating. I don't know, that's not the word. I don't know. But anyway, hopefully I can help, but I can't make any promises. Again, not an expert. I just I get annoyed when stuff doesn't work and I wanted this to work. So again, hopefully that's all you need. But yeah, let me know if it's not. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope it helps. Hope you get it running.